Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is out of Yahoo World News by Lee Moran, Huffington Post, of course. So there's an outrage that is going on all over Twitter. Donald Trump sparking outrage by tweeting nationalist talking points, and it is white nationalist talking points. And so this is sparking a huge outrage all over because, as you noticed, yesterday was supposed to be noted as the darkest hour in the Trump presidency because of the whole issue behind what happened yesterday. And I'm going to it actually. So this video is going to actually talk about some rather disturbing things that there is several things and how it affects just the general population. So I'm going to just go ahead and okay. So White House Trump says that he's not concerned about what Cohen may tell Mueller, but I don't believe that. There is a lot of craziness with this whole issue with Cohen and Mueller. So there's a mess load of articles talking about that. And so I've seen some people even on YouTube saying that they thought that Donald Trump could possibly get impeached. But I've also heard that that is less likely to happen because there's more complicated issues involved in all of this. And so if you just look down here, it says Cohen's admission doesn't mean that Trump is guilty, legal experts say. That was one. Leaker of secret report on Russian hacking gets 5 years. Let's see, Cohen's admission. And then Trump speechwriter ouster sparks racially charged debate. And I think that came out. I actually did. I did a video about that. That was crazy. It comes to find out that the speechwriter was at one of those nationalist events, like the alt-right. I believe it was the alt-right. But anyway, this right here, I've seen a lot of other articles that really don't point to him being not concerned. There's really actually more concern. So a lot of this, if you just look at it, what does it say? Trump reacts to the report of the White House counsel cooperation with blah, blah, blah. Okay. Robert Mueller. Trump ordered Mueller fired but backed off when White House, and it goes into that. All this thing with Cohen and Mueller is a big issue right now. And so White House as crime scene, how Robert Mueller is closing in on blank, blank, blank. It goes in, it's this whole thing between Mueller and that issue, and then the Cohen issue, which he, I believe, knows a whole lot about Trump. It's, yesterday it was all over the news about that whole issue, and that does not sit well for the administration right there in and of itself. And then now you've got this whole thing here talking about Trump. I think he's tweeting on his tweeting binge, and he tweeted some things that, were not really great on Twitter. And it actually was, he usually has a knack for tweeting things, and it's off record. He never waits for someone to tell him, well, okay, this is what you need to say. He does his own say so. So defense counsel in Manafort trial sought mistrial over juror issue. All that's going on. It's, it just doesn't, all this stuff has got that whole administration in an uproar. And so it has gotten the White House under fire for a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And so that was a big issue. But anyway, to get back to this tweeting deal here. So I just thought this was interesting because there are people of all walks of life talking about this and talking about how it is really not a good look for Trump right now. There's a video attached to it, but I'm not really going to play the video just yet. So I'm just going to go into this. It said that President Donald Trump faced more accusations of racism late Wednesday after he tweeted about white farmers in South Africa. And so, in an apparent response to a segment on Tucker Carlson, and if you guys don't know who Tucker Carlson is, he's Fox News show host. And so he said some really, he's usually really says some very debateful comments that don't sit well with a lot of people. But it says that Trump said that he had asked Secretary of the State Mike Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures. So I have asked Secretary of State, Secretary Pompeo, to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from the white farmers. And so anybody on YouTube seeing some of that go on, they actually had, people in South Africa talking about this and heated debate and heated talks about the, mistreatment of the South African farmers versus these white South African farmers. Afrikaan, let's say that, because that's really what they are referred to as. So it goes on to say that Donald J. Trump, he has tweeted some things that have not been very nice. And so, which is not unusual, but it says that the white nationalist talking points, says fellow tweeters accused Trump of promoting them, those nationalist talking points. And so that the South African government was waging a war against whites. And he said this. Now the reason why I mentioned that whole thing about yesterday about the Mueller issue and the Cohen issue, he is really taking the gloves off. Donald Trump is now. He's not hiding the racism anymore. At first he would kind of hide some of it, like it was subtle to the point to where you'd have to question, we know there's some issues, the ones who are really still not sure. There are other people that just know right away, yeah, he's a racist. And then there are some people that are scratching their head, especially like those black leaders that were supposed religious leaders that met with Trump. One of them sat there and said he's the blackest president we're ever going to get. I think you need to look at this article right now. Whoever that guy was, he should be eating those words right now, because this is totally the contrary of what those so-called religious leaders might have thought. They didn't know who they were supporting. So the very same person they were sitting around is doing this right here. Just after meeting with all those black, preachers and reverends, this is what he says here, that he's asked the Secretary of State, Pompeo, to closely look and study the South African land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killings of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers. Okay, and this was Tucker Carlson, Fox News. So August 23rd, 2018. So let's get a little deeper into this, because this is crazy, but it's true. It's saying here that, let's see here. Now, some of the names are probably South African names, or they have like, long pronunciation. It's African sounding, so bear with me. So Hosela or Kosela Diko, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, spokeswoman, told Reuters that Trump was misinformed about the country's planned land reforms and that its government would take up the matter through diplomatic channels. So South Africa totally rejects this narrow perception, which only seeks to divide our nation and reminds us of our colonial past. So the South African government tweeted, South Africa will speed up the pace of land reform in a careful and inclusive manner that does not divide our nation. So South Africa totally rejects this narrow perception, which only seeks to divide our nation and reminds us of our colonial past, which, if you really think about that, that was like, when Mandela had to come in and he had to kind of like bring peace to South Africa because of all of the drama that was happening and, the warring and whatnot. And since he's been gone, it's sort of like reverted back to the way things were. And so now they're having this issue with the land grabs and stuff, and which is rightfully so. And so they had debated on it, and they had actually did talks on this, and I saw this. And so now Donald Trump is putting his 2 cents in this, and we know where all this is coming from. And so South African government, on August 23rd, 2018, other tweeters saw Trump's tweets as a thumbs up to the right-wing extremists and attempts to distract people from the conviction of his former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, his 8 charges that happened. Now, that's why I was talking about what happened yesterday about the court issues, and his former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, pleading guilty to the bank fraud, tax fraud, and the campaign finance violations. So all that does not look good for the White House. And so Donald Trump is not happy about that. And he says that yesterday they said that he's constantly looking at CNN, he's looking at cable, he's looking at Fox News, and he is worried about this. Despite what those mainstream articles are saying about him not being worried, he is worried. This is actually more accurate right here out of all the other articles. And so South African land seizures are a huge topic with American right-wing extremists. So they'll interrupt this as another thumbs up from the president. Okay, so Will Summer August 23rd, 2018. So I guess Trump's going all in on white nationalist talking points about white uh, farmers, South Africa. And so Infinita Tristeza, August 23rd, 2018. And so bear with me here. So I'm just trying to slide down on this article here, but you're going to see more on this article. Maggie Haberman. So there's a lot of people that are kind of responding. So that's why the names are popping up, and they're on Twitter, and they've been conversing back and forth about this whole thing. And so you'll even see white people that see that there's a big, snafu about this whole thing. Trump tweeting about white farmers being wronged by South African government. Okay, so this doesn't look good. So these are the comments that people are making about this whole thing. A lot of people see this and they see that this is problematic, which it is. Okay, so, okay. I have two words for Trump: Puerto Rico, which that hasn't been fixed by him. Days after being accused of saying the N-word, Trump directs his Secretary of State to protect white South African farmers. So these are the names of people responding. So I'll just kind of skip over. Windsor Man. So based on the absolutely vile, now this goes into this whole thing with this girl that was missing and abducted in Iowa. Based on absolutely vile Molly Tibbetts propaganda and tonight's broadcast of South African racist lies, it seems clear that the president and his media apparatus are reacting to legal woes by diving even harder into white supremacy. And so Talia Levin, these are names of people that are commenting about all of this. They see this. And so Tucker Carlson trotted out one of his favorite discredited stories about white South African farmers being forced off their lands and murdered. Then tonight, after the segment aired, Trump tweeted that he was having Mike Pompeo look into it. And so Dave Little, August 23rd, 2018. So wow, just wow. Here we see the president of the U.S. openly endorsing white genocide propaganda of South African white supremacist movement. And so Charles Johnson. So they're all talking, just got everybody talking about this. And so this is what's really hot right now. So, oh, hell no. Did you literally just tweet a blatant white nationalist conspiracy talking point? So these are all of what people have seen Donald Trump tweet out, and they see it. Now, these are white people who see this. And I have not really heard any black people say anything about this yet, except me. Maybe a few others who see this. So it says F, well, what the F? Seriously, what the F? The president who doesn't know where South Africa is and wonders when they change their name to South Sh-ole, blankety blank. When he said that, it was a shithole. So is concerned about the appropriation of land from white farmers. So deep down, deep beneath his racist veneer are many layers of even deeper racism. See, other people see this, but those preachers, let's get back to that sat there, especially the black one, he's going to be the blackest president. I think they need to eat those words. So cool that Tucker Carlson is acting as a direct pathway communicating narratives between white nationalists and the president of the United States. This article originally appeared in Huffington Post. So that's pretty much the article, but these are the responses of the tweets. Actually, I think there's more to the article than that. So let me see, hang on. Because I saw some other stuff to the article. There were more to the article than that. It's called Flipping, and it almost ought to be illegal. Flipping. So anyway, you see him right here. He is not happy because of this Cohen thing. So the president continues to fume over the betrayal of his former. See, now we hear the truth. He fumes over the betrayal of Michael Cohen because accusing him of using him to get a better deal with the prosecutors. And so I'm not even going to go into that. But right now, what I heard that was disturbing yesterday is one of the guys, he was basically talking about this whole issue. And he was stating, I think actually that is the whole article, but the names that were cropping up. Okay, see, this is actually the original article, and so you can see where it was coming from on Twitter. And so I basically read it, and so you can see Will Summer and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I just was tripping because I was like, wait, where are all the actual Twitter feeds? Okay, so I was reading the Twitter feeds, but it looks more like this, so you can see it. But anyway, Donald Trump is pissed. And so right now he is not happy at all. It was said that he's constantly watching CNN. He's looking at all this stuff with the Mueller and Cohen case, especially Cohen. And that's what he's got his eye on right now. And so this is the thing right here. You're kind of seeing it, what's being said. So while I'm talking, it's about the South African farmers versus the black South African farmers versus the white South African farmers. And so it is getting racial. It isn't getting, it already was, but now it's so emboldened. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And so this whole thing that happened yesterday with those court cases and all that stuff, that Paul Manafort and his former lawyer and all that stuff, it is not looking well right now for the Trump administration and how this plays a part. Now, some people are saying that, oh, he might get he might get impeached. Some people are looking for that to happen, but they said it could be a lot more complicated than they know. He may not get impeached, but it doesn't look good for their administration, that's for sure. And it definitely will show up at the polls. And what I'm also hearing is that the Democrats will probably use this to their advantage, more than likely. And by Cohen knowing so much, a lawyer knowing so much information about you like that, and saying that he's going to tell all, who knows what he knows and what he's going to tell. So that can't sit well with Donald Trump right now. And so right now he is blowing the hell up about this Molly Tibbetts thing. Okay, this is not coming from me, but anybody that is right now involved in that immigration thing, he's going to use that as a weapon. He's all over it right now. And I don't know if it's going to, I don't even want to say, but it could affect the DACA thing. It could affect a lot of things. It could ramp up immigrations even more than it already is. And right now, I've already said this. I think I said this before some people even realized. I said there's money in immigration. They don't want to completely end all of it because they've got these detention centers and they make money through all of that. And so, when they catch people and they put them in the detention centers, they get paid for that. Just like they get paid for people being incarcerated, they get paid for the detention centers, the holding centers. And so they can catch people. They got people working there. They've got people that have to do the transporting. They've got people that have to, there's all other facets of these detention centers. There's money involved in it. And I actually seen a guy who he gets billions of dollars is invested in all of this. He's not the only one. There's some other people that are involved in this stuff too. And you wouldn't believe, actually, I actually had pulled it up, but I said I'm not going to talk about it. But okay. I know people are going to think, how does she know this bullshit? But I don't know. I'm just one of those kind of people that I don't know, just really is. Here's who's making money on immigration enforcement. And so it's a multi-million dollar investment. Okay. And so that's why I feel like there's a lot of dishonest people out there. A lot of people don't tell the truth. And a lot of it is because this is the world where now, people have gotten so out of control with things that money is all they're concerned about, even at the expense of people's lives. And so here who's making money from immigration enforcement. And so I'm doing this. And so the Trump administration much publicized increase in immigration enforcement is also increasing the bottom line for the profit prison and other companies from the private sector, with many signing multi-million dollar contracts with Department of Homeland Security. So a lot of people imagine immigration detention as being the government only function, but there are private contractors throughout the entire immigration enforcement and detention system. So Jeremy Moeller, communications director of the research and policy group in the public interest. Okay, from the moment after an undocumented immigrant is arrested, you have corporations that contract with federal agencies and provide everything from operating detention centers to providing ankle monitors and all the way to chartered flights if they deported, Moeller said. So here's a look at the private sector part of it, of businesses that make money from immigration enforcement. So all these people, all these companies, and all these other factions make money off of this. And so all of those people that are rooting around talking about we're going to move people out, we're going to do this and do that. Well, guess what? They don't totally want to get rid of it because you want some of it because you got to keep these people in business. You got the tech industry. Running a massive nationwide government operation requires organization and technology. And a number of industries' biggest players are offering up their services. So just take the media giant Thomson's Reuters. Its special services subsidiary won a $6.8 million contract with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in March. So according to the contract, Thomson's and Reuters will provide support of ICE enforcement, removal of operations unit in its mission to locate, arrest, and remove criminal alien that pose a threat to public safety. And so here you have it. He's the CEO of Microsoft, believe it or not. So, and then there's Microsoft, the tech giant. Okay, so Satya Nadella, he is the CEO of Microsoft. You're looking at him right here. So the tech giant faced internal backlash from employees protesting that the company's work with ICE. In the letter originally reported that the New York Times, through the CEO Satya Nadella, issued statements that on President Donald Trump's family separation policy. So Microsoft's $19.4 million contract with ICE still stands. So it's still happening rather. So transportation. Let's go into that. So once the people are detained, there's the question of how to physically get them to the detention centers, right? So ICE uses ground transportation, charters and commercial flights, aircrafts, officer escorts to deport immigrants. So ICE has its own air transportation division. So ICE, which is ICE Air Operations, that works with the federal GSA to contract charter flight services through companies like CSI Aviation and Cipher Aviation. Part of ICE's budget allocates funds to commercial aircraft contracts too. However, a number of U.S. airlines, including American and the United, have been quick to distance themselves from immigration issues. But they do. Here we are, right here. Got to get people where they got to go if you're going to transport folks and deport people. And these are the people all involved in it. So a big part of ICE transportation removal program budget is allocated to the grounds transportations. An agency, one of the agency's private sectors is GEO transportation or transport. It has 300 vehicles to support ICE, U.S. Marshal Service and Federal Bureau of Prisons. It's state level contracts, but that's not all the company does. It actually is part of a much larger publicly traded company called GEO Group. Immigration policy is a key of the story for these private prison operators, but it's not the whole story, said Alex Sineman, director of Height Capital Markets. His team conducts research on sectors most impacted by government actions and policies. These businesses are most diversified than might first meet the eye. So, for-profit prisons, GEO Group is involved in nearly every step of the immigration enforcement process, from prison design to electronic tracking and release of released immigrants. And it's optimistic about future earnings under Trump. So Trump is administration and this whole scheme of things with immigration is the best thing that happened for all these companies. So in short, so in April of 2017, it won its first ICE contract under the Trump administration, a $110 million 10-year deal to run 1,000 bed detention center facility in Texas. So a GEO Group spokesperson said that the proposal was originally made under the Obama administration in July of 2015. Okay, so now that the contract is approved, the company expects it to generate 44 million in annualized revenues. Okay, so this is it here. So the one who's doing the enforcing and making the whole thing pop and move is this Trump administration. They're actually really putting their money where their mouth is and putting everything into action. And so I already did that. So basically, this is what you have here. And so it goes on to say that's a guard escorting an immigrant detainee from his segregation cell back into the general population at Adelanto detention facility managed by GEO Group. And so GEO Group spokesperson said it does not take a position on, nor have we ever advocated for or against criminal justice or immigration policies. They say this, but they're just about making the money. Another one of the country's leading for-profit prison companies is Core Civic, was awarded $1 billion 4-year contract in 2014 for a single facility in Dilley, Texas. The terms of the contract were renegotiated for a lower rate in 2016. These examples alone don't illustrate the full extent of the private sector businesses involved in U.S. immigration enforcement, but there are also bail bonds companies that are involved, healthcare companies that are involved, food service groups that are involved, money transfer services that are involved, and more working in tandem with for-profit prisons and ultimately the U.S. government to help run the multi-billion-dollar business of immigration enforcement. So there you have it in a nutshell. And so there's a lot of key players involved in all of this. And so that is the reason why it is in full effect. And so that's a big industry, many people involved, many key players other than just the White House. And so that delves into that. And so we've gone through a bunch of things here. And that whole thing here, this article right here, he is basically saying all of the things that white nationalist people love to hear, all these talking points. You see it. This is Donald J. Trump right here tweeting out, I have asked Secretary of State Pompeo to closely study the South African farm seizures, expropriations, and large-scale killings of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers at Tucker Carlson, Fox News. And so you can tell he watches all this stuff. So he is on it 100%. He is not happy about that Mueller and that that Cohen thing, he has been angry about that. And so so that is not sitting well with him right now. And so right now he is on this whole thing with this Molly Tibbetts killing is not, they say it's not about immigration, but don't let that fool you. He is going to be using that as that's going to be part of it. They're saying that because they don't want people to panic, but you need to panic. If you're in that predicament, look what I just read. And he's going to use that as propaganda, just like he did when that other girl got shot. And I believe it was in San Francisco where it happened. The girl was shot, and he said that the guy was deported a couple of times, more than 2 or 3 times, and that that kind of prompted the whole thing on immigration right there. And so Michael Cohen fundraiser raises more than $130,000 to help tell the truth about Trump. So this stuff does not look good. This is what is pissing him off. And so this is, like it said yesterday, was supposed to be the darkest day of the Trump administration. Well, they said he could, if you thought he was bad before, get ready. Get ready. So anyway, that's pretty much it right there in a nutshell. So as a matter of fact, let me go back to where I was, because I just think, what's that old saying? The shit's gonna hit the fan. Well, it definitely is gonna hit the fan now because of all of this stuff happening. So anyway, so it all ties into together is what I'm thinking. It all ties in together. So okay, so that was the, I'm not even talking about that. So hope I said his name correctly. Okay, here it is. This right here is Mike Cohen pleads guilty and implicates Trump as Paul Manafort is. And then Michael Cohen, how Trump's pit bull turned on him. This is not good. Michael Cohen leaves court guilty plea. And so that whole thing did not sit well, as a matter of fact. They said he's close as close can get. And so that's got to be a disturbing thing for Trump right now, for this whole thing to blow up like this. And it exposed him, possibly. So yeah, this is not good at all. This is not a good look. So I don't know if they still have the videos up. He might have been pissed about that and had them erased, because he was really angry about that. Trump responds to Manafort conviction. Paul Manafort trials of scandals. Can the president be impeached? We answer your questions. And so some people were talking about that. They were spouting all that off about, can the president be impeached? And so I was hearing something that was other than that he may not be. And so anyway, I don't know if this is an ad. I think in a few minutes it will actually talk about it. I don't know if it's actually turned up or not. If it isn't, let's see.
Since the news broke of Michael Cohen's guilty plea, we've been getting a ton of legal questions from our readers, and I'm going to try to answer some of them. Leo asked, for instance, can the president be impeached with the currently known facts, or is more needed? On the one hand, impeachment is a political process, but if everything Michael Cohen says is true, that the president instructed him to violate campaign finance laws by paying hush money to women who said they had affairs with him in order to influence the election. That is just the sort of thing the framers of the Constitution were concerned about. And they thought that interfering with the integrity of elections could well be an impeachable offense. Which leads us to our next question that some of you were wondering about. Does the fact that these crimes were committed before Trump was elected have any significance? In general, for impeachment purposes, most scholars say that only the actions of a sitting president should matter, that criminal misconduct before a president took office should not be grounds for impeachment, but they make one exception. Did the conduct cause the president to obtain his office illicitly and corruptly? And that's what the Cohen allegations seem to add up to. And one question we got via Twitter was, are there any parallels in this to the Starr investigation of Whitewater leading to the impeachment of Clinton after the Lewinsky scandal? Or are those just surface similarities? I think they're basically surface similarities because President Clinton's conduct, however ugly and questionable, was private conduct. In the Trump case, if the Michael Cohen allegations are correct, you may well have him corruptly obtaining his office, and that's much more closely tied to the presidency than what was said about Bill Clinton. Lastly, one person asked if Cohen could be pardoned. The president can pardon Michael Cohen if he wishes to. Were he to pardon somebody who poses a threat to him in a criminal proceeding, that would be the use of the president's office not to offer clemency based on neutral grounds, but on self-interested grounds. And that too could raise the prospect of impeachment.
So there you have it.
Here are a few ways we're making.
Okay, so thanks for listening.